Let's talk more now about the crisis in Iraq. I'm being joined by the VOA's correspondent in Washington, Jeff Young, who has great experience on Iraq and Iraqi issues. Jeff, thanks for joining us on The World today. Great to have you back on the program. Let's talk about the airstrikes from Syria. How significant is it that Syria is actually helping Iraq to fight the militants?
Well, if you look at it, maybe with a tiny bit of cynicism, it all makes perfect sense. Think about this. Both Syria and Iraq are client states of Iran. Iran has a common interest in making sure that the Maliki government stays intact and stays in power, and at the same time, making sure that Bashar al-Assad in Syria maintains power. Iran has boots on the ground, or forces, in both countries. Some of it is Quds Force, some of it is special ops, but they're there. Also, this is something really interesting that has just come up. Iran, according to the New York Times, has been sending and operating unmanned drones from a military airfield in Baghdad. So this is eyes and ears for the Maliki government. Now, they're not the only ones. Rest assured that there might be other countries. Some people might even suggest the United States might have its own drones in there. There are no confirmations on that. But the point of it is that now this conflict has essentially merged. And now you have a common enemy, ISIL, that is threatening the governments of both Syria and Iraq. And you have a vested interest by Iran, and at the same time, an interest by the United States in making sure that Maliki and his government can remain intact and that Iraq does not get torn apart.
The Prime Minister has said he's welcomed any sort of help to curb the militants. He's urged the U.S. To launch airstrikes on Iran. But how important is it where the help is coming from? Because Iran is against the United States, so is Russia, and most of the other countries that border Iraq. So how important is it where Iraq is getting its help from?
Well, from the Maliki side, from the Iraqi side, clearly, anyone who wants to come with a bucket of water and help put out the fire is welcome indeed. This is all situational ethics. If you're in a fight and you need some help, anyone who's willing to swing a fist alongside you is welcome. That, I think, is understood. I think the larger geopolitical discussions at this point have been subverted in the name of survival of the regime. At this point, Maliki's prime consideration is, can he stand on his 2 feet and remain in power?
And of course, there's the impacts, there's the after effects of all of this fighting, thousands leaving Iraq to refugee camps, especially towards the Kurdish regions. How much more can these refugee camps take? I mean, how much more will the fighting in Iraq impact the rest of its neighbors?
It has absolutely overwhelmed Jordan. Jordan started out taking a huge number of refugees from Syria. Now there are over 1 million refugees that have fled Iraq. So it's not just Jordan, it's Turkey. It's the whole surrounding region is now dealing with a massive refugee crisis from both nations. And as you know from reports from the United Nations Commission for High Commissioner for Refugees and other sources like NGOs, the resources of being able to accommodate and house and feed the basic needs of people, water, food, sanitation. When you have refugee camps of tens and tens and thousands of people, how do you support something like this? This is essentially overwhelming the system as we know it, the infrastructure as we know it. And right now, there are no answers. There's only more people pouring over the border as fast as they can, trying to escape harm. And all we can do is try our best, we and everyone else. And there are no simple answers. You know that.
Very helpful on the topic of Iraq. Jeff Young